As of the end of Thursday of this week, the results of this week's election in Israel appear to show that the voters have given a convincing mandate to guess who? Bibi Netanyahu again, to return for an unprecedented third non-consecutive term as prime minister. With 99% of the votes counted, the Likud party, which Netanyahu leads, won enough votes for 32 seats in the incoming Knesset plenum, while the Yesh Atid party, led by incumbent Prime Minister Yair Lapid, came in second with enough support for 24 seats. Now, parties that had indicated they'd be willing to join this new coalition government with Bibi Netanyahu include the Religious Zionism Party, which won 14 seats, Shas, which is an ultra-Orthodox party, which won 11 seats, and United Torah Judaism, which won 7 seats, for a total of 64, giving a majority to Benjamin Netanyahu to form the next government, 4 more than the minimum needed to require in forming this coalition. Another party that historically has been aligned with the right, the Israel Beitenu party of Avigdor Lieberman, won 6 seats, but it remains to be seen if Lieberman himself, who has had a very tense relationship with Netanyahu for many years, will even be willing to sit with him in a coalition now, or indeed if Netanyahu himself will even offer to let him in. That's the way Israeli politics goes, my friends. Well, meanwhile, the National Unity Party, led by incumbent Defense Minister Benny Gantz, had a disappointing election result. It really surprised everybody, to be honest, only winning enough seats for 12. Although Gantz, a political centrist who was appointed to be IDF Chief of Staff in February of 2011 with Netanyahu's very own support, indicated he would be willing to sit in a governing coalition with Netanyahu and continue serving as defense minister. I kind of like the guy, actually. He and the other leaders of his party held a press conference Wednesday morning in which they declared their firm intention to sit in the opposition. So who knows which way that party will go. It must be noted, however, that Israeli politics is a place where the phrase, never say never, is highly relevant, and although the statement by Gantz and outgoing Justice Minister Gideon Sa'ar that they won't be joining Netanyahu's coalition might sound like the end of the discussion, it might just as easily be merely the beginning of one. We'll have to wait and see. Well, don't wait too long. However, if the National Union Party does end up in the opposition, it will have plenty of company. They will be joined there by the Labour Party, the party which dominated Israel's political scene for the first 3 decades of the state existence, but which has seen its support dwindle in recent years. In fact, they just made it over the threshold of 3.25%, getting their 4 seats, which they needed to even sit in the Knesset. Meretz, another left-wing party with a long history in Israeli politics, was not so lucky. I'm not crying over that. They won less than 3.25% as of the press at the end of Thursday. Although there are still some votes to count, not many. Only 1% left. Meretz has been in the Knesset for the last 30 years. Can you believe that? You were a party for 30 years in the Knesset and suddenly you're out. So this is the first time that they are out in 3 decades. Balad, an Arab party historically affiliated with the effort to declare Israel a binational state instead of an explicitly Jewish state, also appeared to have failed to clear the electoral threshold in this election. The other 2 Arab parties, Ram and Hadash-Tal, both won enough votes for 5 seats in the incoming Knesset, but it remains to be seen if they will formally join the opposition or not. Another notable event occurred just days before the election, and that was the signing of an agreement with Lebanon demarcating the maritime border between the 2 countries and allowing for the development of large offshore reserves of natural gas. Now, this is something we are going to watch whether or not Benjamin Netanyahu carries on through to the agreement. The agreement, which was reached under the diplomatic aegis of the United States and with support from an increasingly energy-starved European Union, has come in for decidedly mixed reviews by Israel's strategic strategic community. Remember, a lot of people are accusing Yair Lapid of capitulating to Hezbollah and avoiding a war. Some analysts praise the deal for at least temporarily lowering tensions on Israel's northern border and allowing for the development of gas fields that would not have been tapped without a security arrangement of some kind. But it was criticized by many others as a capitulation, as I mentioned, by Israel to the dictates of the Iranian-backed Shiite terror militia Hezbollah, which effectively rules Lebanon due to the weakness of the other factions in Lebanon's government. This analysis includes a broader geopolitical angle. Remember now, Israel is part of the Abrahamic Accords, and we have allies in the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and hopefully in the future Saudi Arabia, as well as the more established regional allies such as Turkey, Egypt, and Jordan. So how will this deal be perceived? And what will happen if Israel is not as ready to sign it? And of course, we still need to confront Iran to the northeast of us and its regional proxies in the region. However, that point appears to have been somewhat undermined by Israel's recent diplomatic reapproachment with Turkey, whose leaders have said they're ready to work with whatever government emerges from this week's Israeli elections. In any event, the mixed reviews of Lapid's short tenure as Israel's political leader was not enough for voters to give him the mandate to continue in that role. But voters have given him enough support to remain a force in Israeli politics as the leader of the opposition to the incoming governing coalition, which will be led, I believe, by Benjamin Netanyahu. And he will surely be a candidate for prime minister in Israel for any future elections coming up. Of course, we've had 5 elections already. Who knows if there'll be a 6th soon. However, the big story in this election that everyone in Israel and in the Jewish diaspora are talking about is the rise to power of someone named Itamar Ben-Gvir, the chairman of the Otzma Yehudit faction within the religious Zionism party, along with Bezalel Smotrich, another leader within the faction with a history of very controversial statements on a variety of social, diplomatic, and security issues. Sources close to Ben-Gvir told media outlets in the aftermath of the election results that he would demand to be the Minister of Public Security in exchange for joining a Netanyahu-led governing coalition. This is where it gets really sticky in these coalition negotiations. With this portfolio, he would push for a tough crackdown on criminal activity in the Arab sector, as well as the nexus between criminal elements and terrorist groups. This stance is likely to exacerbate tensions between Israel and the Jewish diaspora, as well as Israel and, of course, the United States State Department. Another item on Ben-Gvir's agenda, if he manages to get the post of public security minister, is to crack down on illegal immigrants in Israel and others who are residing here without the proper paperwork, something a lot of nations are considering these days, as well as the midterms in the United States. Taken together, the withering contempt that Ben-Gvir and his associates have expressed for Reform Jews and their apparent eagerness to bring a rising level of scrutiny to the paperwork of non-citizens living and working in Israel is making many Israeli believers nervous. Christian organizations and ministries who have a presence in Israel are also warily watching these developments take place, as many of their workers and volunteers require visas to be here, and it's a challenge to keep this paperwork in order even when the relevant ministries are being run by ministers who are quite friendly. This is a cause for prayer and concern. So I'm asking all of you out there to pray for the Christian ministries and those who are resident in Israel about who gets which portfolio in the Israeli government. Additionally, the prospect of Ben-Gvir being given public security minister and the less likely but the still possible prospect of Smotrich being appointed as Minister of Defense has led to some sharp expressions of alarm from several former IDF officers, Mossad agents, and others in Israel's professional military security and intelligence echelon. Both men have a history of criticizing the Shin Bet, which is Israel's security Security Agency and the IDF for their enforcement of court rulings against Jewish settlers in Judea and Samaria, known to most of the world as the West Bank. And Ben-Gvir was actually rejected by the IDF draft board when he was 18 because of his political activities as a teenager. They were already considered to be incompatible with service in the national security apparatus of the Jewish state. Since then, he has had many run-ins with the Israeli police, almost always being arrested several times for his activities at protest rallies against various actions by the government, usually in regard to the settlements. So there's a lot of sparks, I think, that are going to be flying in the Israeli coalition that's being put together. Another official expressed a lack of confidence in the competence of Ben-Gvir or Smotrich for the kind of senior defense and security posts they've said they want, flatly declaring that if they're in those posts and a serious terrorist attack of war comes to Israel, quote, I don't think they can handle it. And this is a critical post which Defense Minister Benny Gantz has been sitting in, and I think, quite honestly, most Israelis are confident in what he is doing in his portfolio. In any event, with almost all the votes counted and the results nearly finalized, it looks like the political deadlock which followed the previous 4 elections in Israel has been broken, and a decisive mandate has been handed to the right, led by the once and future Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. So pray for him, please, and the coalition he puts together, as well as his cabinet ministers. The procedure now calls for the Israeli President Isaac Herzog, or Itzhak Herzog, to officially receive the certified results of the Elections Commission, probably on next Sunday morning following the Shabbat. At that point, he will be given a week to consult with the leaders of the parties who will be part of the incoming Knesset about who they will recommend to be given a chance to form the next governing coalition. Will Ben-Gvir be given the Ministry of Public Security, as he has indicated will be his price for joining Bibi's coalition? Will Smotrich even ask for, much less receive, the Ministry of Defense, or will Bibi attempt to entice Gantz to join his coalition and stay on in the vitally important role for which he is very competent for and has lots of professional experience? Who will be given other important posts such as the Minister of Justice, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the Minister of Finance, especially as we're facing the potential for recession, although like everywhere else, we have inflation also. The VFI news team will be closely monitoring developments to give you the answers to these and many other pressing questions that we know you are thinking about and praying into. In the meantime, if you liked this video, give a thumbs up, give us a like, share it with others who know, and also pray for Israel, and subscribe to VFI News at the YouTube channel. All these steps make it possible for us to spread this vitally important information to a much wider audience. God bless you, and shalom from Israel.